Have you ever wondered why many of us have unanswered prayer? We will be diving into an essential aspect of the Christian life, the power of asking. The Bible gives us clear guidance on how to approach God with our requests. In this teaching, we'll explore how asking in faith according to God's will can unlock His promises in our lives. David's example of asking. Let's start with the example of David, a man after God's own heart. In 1 Samuel 23 and 2 Samuel 5, we see David repeatedly inquiring of the Lord before taking action. When faced with challenges, David didn't just rely on his own understanding, he asked God for guidance. Every time David asked, God responded with clear instructions. This shows us that when we seek God's direction, He is faithful to answer. Like David, we must approach God with humility, asking for His wisdom and guidance in every decision. Jesus responds to asking. In the New Testament, we see powerful examples of people asking Jesus for help. In Matthew 8, a leper approaches Jesus and asks to be cleansed. Jesus responds immediately, healing him with a touch. In Mark 10, a blind man asks Jesus to restore his sight. Jesus again responds with compassion, saying, "Your faith has made you well." These stories remind us that Jesus is always willing to respond to our needs when we ask in faith. He is ready to bring healing, restoration, and provision into our lives when we come to Him with our requests. The importance of asking. James 4 verse 2 tells us, "You do not have because you do not ask." Jesus also emphasized the importance of asking in Matthew 7 verses 7 to 8. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. And in Matthew 21 verse 22 he said, "And all things whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing you shall receive." These verses highlight the power of asking in prayer. When we come to God with our needs, believing in His goodness and power, we position ourselves to receive His blessings. But we must ask with faith, expecting that God will answer. Jesus taught a powerful lesson on persistence in prayer through the parable of the persistent widow in Luke chapter 18. The widow kept coming to an unjust judge, asking for justice. Though he didn't care about her or her situation, her persistence wore him down, and He granted her request. Jesus used this story to teach us that we should always pray and not give up. God is far more just and loving than the judge in the parable. If persistence can move an unjust judge, how much more will our persistent prayers move the heart of our loving Father? 1 John chapter 5 verses 14 to 15 assures us that if we ask anything according to God's will, He hears us. This confidence is rooted in our relationship with God and our alignment with His purposes. Luke chapter 11 verse 13 tells us that God is eager to give good gifts, including the Holy Spirit, to those who ask. James chapter 1 verse 5 encourages us to ask for wisdom, promising that God gives generously to all without finding fault. When we align our requests with God's will, we can be confident that He hears us and will provide what we need. The Bible also outlines conditions for receiving what we ask for in prayer. 1 John chapter 3 verses 21 to 22 teaches that if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before God, and whatever we ask, we receive from Him because we keep His commandments and do what pleases Him. James chapter 5 verses 13 to 15 speaks of the prayer of faith, particularly in times of sickness, and the importance of asking in faith without doubting. Psalm 50 verse 15 reminds us to call upon God in the day of trouble, with the promise that He will deliver us and we will glorify Him. To receive from God, we must approach Him with a clean heart, obedient life, and unwavering faith. As we've seen throughout this teaching, the power of asking in prayer is undeniable. From David's inquiries to Jesus' responses to those who asked Him, the Bible is filled with examples of how God moves when we ask. But it's not just about asking. It's about asking with faith, persistence, and in alignment with God's will. I encourage you to take your needs, desires, and questions to God in prayer. Ask boldly, ask persistently, and ask with the confidence that He hears you and will answer according to His perfect will.